Alright y'all, here we are in part 2 of our video from Atlanta to Omaha in the iFly MAX8 aircraft, and now we're going to pick you up here at our top of descent. It's about 5 minutes up ahead here. You can see the top of descent indicator there on the navigation display, about 40 miles away. On our progress page says at 21:25 or 38 minutes will be our time to top of descent. So we got about 5 minutes to just talk about a few things and go through a couple items. According to our checklist backside, our pilot flying arrival briefing, we needed to brief the star, transition, altitude, speed restrictions, approach type, flaps, braking, touchdown point, exit plan at a minimum. Those are the required briefing items. So we'll just take a look at what we're doing here. We're doing the Marui 4 arrival into Omaha, and you can notice there's actually no crossing restrictions or anything on this arrival. It's not a descend via, there's not even any expects. So what you can expect from Minneapolis Center in this case, or Omaha approach, is a few crossing restrictions more than likely, just to start you down, or they may just even just say descend and maintain. I do have Lamoni here and Marui. I gave myself 2 crossings just so that I can have a little bit of vertical planning. Lamoni at 32, and I'm sorry, Swab at 250 and 10,000, which is about, if I was to throw in the airport here, just for my own personal planning here, about 30 miles to the airport. You know, that's about a 3-degree path, pretty close to anyway, so that ought to get it done. A lot of times when you fly into some of these airports that don't have any arrivals, any stars or crossing restrictions, sometimes put in the airport, you know, say 30 miles, 35 miles, and then affix, say, 10,000 feet. It can be useful. Now, obviously, I can't do that because I need to fly that 320 vector that's on that arrival after swab, but just for my planning, and I'm assuming that's about what ATC might give, is something like that. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there, and that'll just be our vertical planning. So our star, the Marui 4 arrival, it's going to start at Lamoni over Marui swab, and then that vector, we're going to be landing south on 14 right. So we've got that plugged in. Now we can also go back, take a look at the ILS. Now it's going to be a visual backed up with the ILS. Today, weather in Omaha, winds 180 at 14, scattered 25,000 feet, and an altimeter of 2977. So we're going to do a visual backed up with the ILS to 14 right. And we've got a frequency of 110.3, course of 142, touchdown at 985 feet, our touchdown zone, because it's a visual. MSA is 4,100 feet. Highest obstacles west of Filler there, some tower. When we get down there, or we get the a visual on the airport, we should see Pappies on the left sides, maybe the ALSF2 lighting missed approach. At least here is going to be 3,000 feet. Now it'll be tower assigned because it's a visual approach, but we'll still spin 3 in anticipation if that's what we get. If we do have to go around, hopefully we will not have to do that. Planning flaps 30, brakes 2. I had about 1,000 foot of margin with brakes 2, so that would be latest touchdown point of about 2,500 feet. So looking at the scale at the bottom there, it's somewhere probably around kilo, but I would just use the 2,500 footers in this case, but I'd be looking for both in that case. Planning a right-hand turn off down here, probably possibly the runway if they give it to us, otherwise likely Delta and then maybe cross. We'll see just how quickly we get down. We might be able to make Foxtrot and then a pretty short taxi. Now remember, this is a max, so I need the 3 minutes of cool down time, so I'm actually probably better off to roll it to Delta anyway and then just kind of make a slow taxi back to the gate. I think that pretty much covers that. So we've got that set up in the aircraft. Now another place you can go once you've got the approach loaded up here at the Marui 4 ILS 14 right. I didn't pick a transition, there was none if I remember properly. But hitting an IT ref here, I also can get the data here. 110.3 with a course of 142, so we got that. 110.3 set both sides, course 142 set both sides, and our touchdown of 985 set. I can go ahead and even throw all that in the HGS here. So looking at 9502, if I look at the 10.9A, if we can go back and find that. The back side of the 10.9A will show you a little bit more info, if that will load up for us. If not, we'll pull it up. There it is. So 1-4 right, landing beyond threshold. There's no displaced threshold, so that's going to be my number in that case. So again, we'll go back to, and we'll throw in 9502, which is what it had pre-populated. Runway elevation or touchdown zone of 985, and a glide slope angle of 3. HGS modes, we're going to leave it primary because it's a visual approach, and we'll leave it right there. So the way I would think about this every time, whenever you're doing your top of descent tasks, be like ABCs. So grab the ATIS, grab your weather. Once you know your weather and approach or expected approach, you can build the approach. That's your B, and that's going to be through the departure arrivals here, and then loading up the approach. So build the approach, another B, bug the approach, set your barrows, set your course, set your frequencies. Cruise the FMC, maybe you're at a lower altitude, and you may need to cruise the box at a lower altitude, especially if you're doing an RNAV approach. And then the other C is checklists. So once you've got all that stuff done, you've done your briefings. That's part of the B as well as the briefings. Then once you got all that done, you can run your checklist. So in this case, we'll do our descent checklist.
Descent checklist, minimum,
set,
VREF and VTarget. Now
she may not be happy with me when I say this because the performance data from LC5 was a little bit bugged and it was giving me a zero fuel weight of 121.7. And so I wasn't able to get proper numbers. Checked.
Auto brake.
So we'll just give her a checked on that one. 2 set.
Recall.
Checked.
Descent checklist complete.
All right. So now we're just basically keeping an eye on this machine. So our fix here, we said WMONA at 32. Now you can see in the VSD that descent profile and shows us right on path there in the VSD. Also on path with the on the ND, and then also in our VNAV descent page, you can see our vertical deviation right here, and the number of vertical speed required to make WMONA at 32. So we're going to make it just fine. And that again, like I said, that might be you know, an assumption that we were given a cross WMONA IATA and maintain 320, and then we might get a further descent here. Like I said, maybe we'll be told to cross SWAB at 10,000 feet. And I threw in 250 there just so I don't end up with an overspeed and end up with a held report. So let it go ahead and figure itself out. Now, it does seem like the VNAV in the iFly has more problems than anything right now. It's pretty messy. Obviously, the speed control all on the autopilot in vertical here, it's not doing a fantastic job, but I'm sure they'll get that ironed out. Now, we'll go ahead and spin in our next altitude here. We said we're going to cross SWAB at 10,000 feet. We're going to spin in 10,000. And it actually is already high on path. It needs to start down already. So we'll go ahead and just let it go down. It should go down. If not, we'll pop the button and make it go down. Now, I am a little high. The good news is this is actually a little slow, so it can really pitch over here right now with some idle power and try to pick up that path. Now, again, a little concerned about the iFly and some of its abilities at the moment here. It's even getting a little wonky on the LNAV portion here. Well, we'll just be patient and let it do its thing. I'm certain it'll figure itself out. We can indeed give it a little help as it's high on path and almost on speed. I may not have done it any favors here either. I sort of made up some crossing restrictions, and whether or not those are realistic, I'm not sure. Things seem like they're coming together for us now. We're almost on path, on speed. We'll dump the speed brake. And again, you can look over there at your VSD on your ND. You can also put it up on your side if you like. Things get a little compressed, a little cluttered. And then of of course, you can monitor your descent page, your vertical deviation, vertical bearing, and all that, just to make sure that you're actually on track. You may remember from any previous video that we did where we talked about the blue or the cyan lines here. We call that the swath. And so that's what you're going to see on your vertical situational diagram here, is the fixes that are inside the swath. Obviously, we can't see swab. We can see Marley because it's inside the swath. As the aircraft makes that turn to swab, then that will show up for us. Usually around 100 miles out, which we happen to be right about now, that's of course flying all the flight plan here. 78 miles straight line distance to the airport. That's usually about where we want to make our PA, sit the folks down, because that's usually when you're about 20 to 25 minutes out. And then of course we'll hit the attendant button at 10,000 feet, which lets them do their final walkthrough and clean up.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fasten seatbelt sign has been turned on. Please be in your seat with your seatbelt visible and fastened. Thank you.
Of course, there's other ways to do this too. You know, once you're in that path, you could simply also just do a level change. Now, if there was any intermediate step downs, this was a descend via, you definitely wouldn't want to do that. If you're going to do that in level change, you would have to set each intermediate altitude in the MCP window there until you met that restriction, and then reset it each time to continue the descent. Not ideal, but if the aircraft, particularly the VNAV in this aircraft, is giving you a hard time, that's an option. But it looks to me if you just are patient with it, it'll all work out just fine. And obviously they will update this and make it better for you. At some point here, you might want to roll your bank limiter back up, particularly when you get in the terminal environment and the approach controller starts vectoring you around. He's not going to want you to be doing 15 degrees of bank, so roll that back up, get it back up to 30, 25 or 30. You know, it only just now crossed my mind we should do the RNAV Zulu into 1-4 into Omaha. That would be a lot more fun since it's an RNP with the RF legs. And this aircraft does a really nice job of that. So let's go RNAV Zulu off of Spivey. And we'll take a look at what that looks like. After our 320 vector, we'll have Spivey, Duck X, feeder, on around here, and we're going to execute that. I'll show you the chart. Here's your chart for that. You can see after Spivey how it arcs around, and we still have an final approach course of 142, touchdown at 985. Really nothing much changed. 3,000 foot for the mist. RMP at 0.3, we can still put that in, although in the FMC in this aircraft you currently can't do that. Hopefully they'll get that implemented as well. But we can do the RNAV RMP here and swing this thing around and watch that. That'll be a lot of fun actually, instead of the ILS. Alright, our altimeter was 2977. We'll go ahead and get that set. Don't forget to do your standby. can do approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
2977 set.
Tax.
Auto.
Start switches.
Left continuous.
Approach checklist complete.
Alright, of course there's been a lot of discussion when we do the lights. The landing lights, runway turn off lights, logo at night, and the wing lights all come on at 18,000 feet. And so then we'll turn those off climbing out of 18,000 feet. And you can see that swath swinging around there, and here you can see that next fix in the VSD there, the 10,000 foot crossing. Now, as I said, I could go to the legs page and I could put in a 0.2 RNP, I'm sorry, a 0.3 RNP, but it's going to give me invalid entry. Something that hasn't been implemented yet to change the RNP value in the legs page there. Hopefully they get that implemented. Now I also gave myself a self-imposed here 250-10 at swab. You can see that decel point there. You will at some point then see a green bubble start to work its way up on this VSD here, and that's basically showing me where I will achieve that speed. So when we cross that decel point, you should see that. Of course, the green banana is looking at where I would impact 10,000 feet right now. Of course, it's short of swab because the aircraft is figuring and pitching up for the decel. Again, this can all be monitored through your descent page here. I'm on path. And we'll run this in just a smidge so you can see a little bit better what it's doing. And you can see the aircraft starting to pitch up maybe just a little bit here. The speed drops to 250 at the decel point. You can see the banana start to reach up. And right now it's predicting at this descent rate that we will reach swab at 10. You can see the green bubble there right at swab. So we're predicting that we're gonna hit 250 right at swab, just like we're supposed to, 11 for 10. That's how cool that VSD is. Works pretty good. And you can see how it all works together. 45 high, smidgen high. But the banana's showing right at swab. Speed's right at swab. So we're actually doing pretty good here. Of course, if any one of those three wasn't working out for me all that well, I'd just give it a little bit of help, give it some speed brake and help it out. Do we need it? No, absolutely not. Alright, there's 10,000 feet. Give the flight attendants one ding, that way they know to go ahead and clean up and sit down. Now, we will go direct to SPIV here. That was going to be the fix there on that RNAV RNP. And of course, if you remember the chart said it was SPIV was a mandatory 5,000 feet. So we're going to spin 5,000 in there. There we got SPIV 210 or below at 5,000 feet.
raise your seat back and tray table to the full upright and locked position and fasten your seatbelt. We will come by one last time to pick up cups, cans, newspapers, and any other trash. Thank you.
Now, on his, you can see Spivey, but on mine, you can't. It just has to do with his range versus mine. If I was to roll mine out further, then you would see like he sees there. And since it seems to be a little bit wonky on the path here, this is what I was talking about where in the C's where you can then cruise. So I'm going to cruise the FMC at 10,000 feet, hopefully. There it took. And then I get a new top of D. And it shows VNAV path. So I know that it's going to start down right there at that top of D down to 5,000 feet. Now our RNAV procedures, I'll bring this chart over again for you here, is once you are on a published segment of the approach, would be inside of Spivey. I'm in LNAV, VNAV path, and I'm clear for the approach. I can set something lower to make sure that the aircraft keeps descending. So what I will probably set is 2,000 feet at CDER, and then once I'm out of 2,700 feet, and then once I'm on the published segment of the approach, then I will set 100 feet above touchdown. So I'll set 1,000 feet. And then once I'm out of 2,700 feet, I can set 3,000 feet. You'll see it as we do it here. And that's just to make sure that the FMC makes a continuous descent all the way down. Somewhere right over there should be our airport. There it is, right on the river. Now we've been cleared for the approach, we'll say, so now I can set something lower here. We'll set 2,000 feet for CDER. And then once I'm on that published segment of the approach inside of Spivey, LNAV, VNAV path clear for the approach, I'll set 1,000 feet, which is just rounding up, basically touchdown zone elevation up. And so you can see CDER at or above 2,000 feet. That's my final approach fix. Of course, in VNAV path, the aircraft will respect Spivey here at 5,000 feet, even with the lower altitude. Essentially, all I'm doing here with the lower altitude in the window is allowing the aircraft to descend on profile as necessary, down to 2,000 feet. It will never violate or go lower than what's in the MCP altitude window. Now we'll see how the HUD does as well with the runway alignment and all that sort of thing. The graphical that it gives you on the HUD there. The PMDG doesn't do a great job. It's usually askew quite a bit. We'll see how it looks in this aircraft here. I haven't paid too close attention on that. Again, you can see the green ball on the VSD there with the speed brake out. I don't need it, so I'm going to reach that speed before I reach Spivey at this point. 210 or below, it basically just went to up bug, 209. And that's another great thing about the RNAV approach is when you go to flaps, you set certain flap settings, that speed bug will automatically drop to the next flap setting for you. Unless, of course, you open the window and start manipulating it manually. My fixed page, I'm 6 miles technically from the runway. Obviously that's straight line distance. Now the entirety of the procedure is still 16 miles. And as you maybe remember from other videos or other things I've said, I like to go flaps 5, be at speed 210, flaps 5 at about 10 miles. Obviously some energy management. If you're descending at the same time, it may be necessary to get the flaps out sooner. One thing that's nice about going flaps at all on an RNAV approach is it locks you into VNAV path. So there's SPIVE. Inside SPIVE, LNAV VNAV path cleared for the approach. I can set something even lower now. We're going to set 1,000 feet, which again is barrow or our touchdown zone elevation rounded up 100 feet. And because we need to go down and continue to slow down, flaps 5.
Flaps 5.
Go ahead and arm or speed brake at that point. And you can see how the speed bug dropped to the flaps 5 bug speed. We'll just keep focusing on this procedure. And watch this thing makes a fantastic about 15-degree bank, 10-15-degree bank all the way around. It's fantastic. Really like what these guys have done with the RNP approaches. Now again, I should have been able to put 0.3 there manually. It did it automatically, so that's fine. As long as it's doing it for me automatically, then I don't have to worry about it. Flying miles, 9.7 to go. I'm looking great. I got flaps 5 doing 170. I'm good all the way to about 2,000 feet AGL, so 29.85 is about where I'll probably go landing gear down in flaps 15. We'll say by tower we've been cleared to land. Again, you can see the swath as it churns through all the different fixes, and you'll be able to see the next fix come in here as it swings around. Nice, about 10 to 11 degrees of bank all the way around, doing the RNAV just wonderfully here. There's about 2,000 feet AGL. We're showing about 5 miles to go here, 6 miles here. We're doing just fine. We're on profile, on path, so I'm going to wait just a little bit longer. I can go down to about 1,700 feet AGL if I'm at about 170 knots, but I don't want to press it too much here. Landing gear down.
Landing gear down.
Flaps 15.
Flaps 15.
Sometimes she doesn't like that command for me, so I want to be very careful on that one. It bugs flaps 15 for you. I'm out of 2,700. We can set our missed approach altitude of 3,000 feet. Flaps 30.
Flaps 30.
Before landing checklist.
Before landing checklist. Speed brake.
Armed green light.
Landing gear.
Down 3 green.
Flaps.
30 green light.
Before landing checklist complete.
Alright, there we are. Rolling right around on final, just prior to 1,000 feet. And she missed her call there, but she'll get it on the RA. I'm going to click all this off. I don't like the way you can't double click it, so we'll go ahead and just hand fly from here on in. So we're inside 1,000 feet. She's going to make a call right now.
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet, airspeed 154, sync rate 1,200, correcting. I'm going to adjust my aiming point for the 1,000 footers. Try to keep it on speed. I'm slowing my second time using this Boeing yoke, so Still trying to get used to the touch of it.
500.
A little too much. That's a pretty steep descent angle there.
$50, $40, $30, $10.
Yeah, it was
Extended.
firm.
Deployed.
But as I said, still just trying to get used to this this yoke here and how much you actually have to pull with sensitivity settings and whatnot. And we'll make it work. Not the greatest landing, but hopefully you get the point.
On behalf of this flight crew and Southwest Airlines, welcome to Omaha. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened, seat back and tray table in their full upright and locked position.
Flaps
Don't
up.
carry on items completely under the seat in front of you. When the captain
clear the
turns
side
off
strap of the runway.
seatbelt sign, please be careful when opening the
And we'll
overhead
take it to the
bin.
gate. Now, she did
Items
start
may
her
have
timer
shifted
for me.
during
Now, we do
flight
have to
and
remember
could
this is a
fall
MAX, so
You
it's
may now use the cellular function
gonna
of
take
your
3
small
minutes.
portable electronic devices, but please remain seated and leave your carry-on stowed. Please be advised the aircraft doors will be open during ground servicing. For
and
your
we will
safety,
just
please
pick a gate
ensure that
right
you
over
and any children
yonder.
you are supervising remain clear of the front and back doors. If you are connecting here to another Southwest flight, please check the monitors in the terminal for your flight and gate number. We certainly have enjoyed sharing part of our day with you. We know you have a choice when you fly, and we thank you for choosing Southwest Airlines.
Of course, this Omaha scenery is pretty awful. We'll just find a gate, we'll make it work. Of course, what everybody always wants to know, what was the landing rate? Let's see. I'm gonna bet it was approaching 300.
On the bus.
Ooh, 440. Dang. It's probably one of the worst ones I've ever had. And of course I got on the brakes too hard there. Let's get this thing spun around. Ground crew's there waving us in on the bus. Let's see what her time says. 1:40. See, we still got a lot of time to go. So we would just have to slow roll this thing as much as possible. And even when we get to the gate, we may have to just let the engines run, which is not the best course of action with people walking around down there. Well, it's been 2 minutes and 20 seconds. We'll say it's been 3 minutes, for the sake of making y'all sit here and watch another video here for an extra minute for no reason. On the bus. Engines are coming down. I don't suspect that you're going to have any penalties for not getting 3 minutes on the motors. We can watch her do her parking flow. And that's about it. There's not too much else that I wanted to show you. I was planning on doing the visual backed up with the ILS there, and the RNAV RMP with the RF legs there presented an opportunity, so we went ahead and switched to that. The MAX itself, you know, we talked about a lot of things in both parts 1 and part 2. Hopefully that helps. You guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the Discord.